This is the Okayest Trapper, part of the Okayest Podcast Network, with host Zach Hansen, author of Turning Feral. Hear stories, lessons, and fireside chats through a journey of hunting, trapping, and wilderness living in the modern age.
Howdy, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Okayest Trapper podcast. This episode is brought to you by Mountain Tough Fitness. If you are looking for a way to get in better shape, to push your trap line further and deeper, then look no further than Mountain Tough Fitness. They have workouts tailored for the outdoorsmen and women that take minimal time and minimal gear. If you decide that you want to take your fitness into your own hands, then go check them out at mountaintoughfitness.com and use the promo code Okayest30. That's all caps, Okayest30 for a free 30-day trial. Plus, they make cool swag like the shirt I'm wearing if you're on video, which says Make America Tough Again, which is something we could all probably take to heart. So, folks, I am extremely excited to start the introduction for today's guest because I simultaneously get to fanboy a little bit. Our guest is a trapper who has experience all over the United States, doing everything from long lining in the wilderness to urban nuisance wildlife control. If it's related to trapping, he's done it. And he also happens to star on the History Channel's hit TV show, Mountain Men. Ladies and gentlemen, by way of Montana, I give you Paul Antczak. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this since we talked about it like a month ago or so.
Yeah, and it took a little while, but prime trapping season for both of us, so I'm glad we were able to make it work out.
Right.
Now, question for you. Most people listening to this will probably know you from the show Mountain Men, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show. But one of the things that I like to kind of start to frame, these talks around are your background. And I think as far as we've talked, you started your trapping way back east, but could you maybe recount the first memory you have of being on a trap line?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I lived in southeastern Wisconsin. I started trapping in 1977. And of course, I probably didn't sell my first fur until I was probably, maybe 13 or something like that. So I was trapping like rabbits and stuff like that in southern Wisconsin there. My neighbor told me, he's like, why don't you trap muskrats? And so why would I want to trap a muskrat? And in school in Wisconsin, we studied the Mountain Men era because it was really important to our state history, with all the French explorers and seeking out for more beaver and all of that stuff. And so it always fascinated me, the Mountain Men era, and when he told me you can sell the muskrats and, in the fur trade, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, they're still doing that. And he's like, oh yeah. Grunwald comes through 2-3 times a year and you sell your muskrats to the fur buyer out of Illinois, And so then he, of course, like any good trapper, you're going to go ahead when a young man or a woman is interested in trapping, you're going to hook them up. You're going to set them up with good location, start catching right away, and how to and the right equipment. And that's just what he did. Mr. Wilsinski, he actually gave me his old trap line, and I remember catching my first muskrat then, actual fur bearer, so.
That's awesome. Now, was he with you when you caught that first muskrat? Like, was he kind of guiding you along the way as he handed it off too?
No. He looked at the traps I had, and of course I had I think probably like number 2 double longs and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, those ain't the right traps for what you need. So he gave me some stop loss and different stuff, but no, he worked at the aluminum plant in town there. And he just kind of pointed me in a direction and told me what to look for, and I grew up without a father. So a lot of things I did through my life, I looked for neighboring men and stuff like that, take me hunting and all of that. But he wasn't able to come with me. I just kind of went on my own,
Wow. And that was clearly before the era of YouTube. So he was kind of pointing you and saying, look for this, that, and the other. Do you remember any mistakes that you made as you were feeling it out along the way that just stick out in your mind as a young enterprising kid who's trying to figure it out on his own.
Oh yeah. I didn't know anything about drowning the animal, so I had, that the muskrat got wrapped up. My first muskrat got wrapped up, and all I could see was his butt sticking out of the tall grass. And I grabbed his tail, and the thing came at me with the mouth wide open, what I mean, and the teeth are glaring. And I went, oh shit! Then I had my 22 Ithaca single shot, and I shot it with that and killed it. And sorry about the old shit, but
oh no, this is an open platform. You can speak
okay.
however you want to do it, and we're trappers, for Christ's
Right,
sake.
right, yeah.
So you caught that muskrat. Do you remember how much you were able to sell it for to Grinwald or whoever it was that was rolling through buying pelts at the time?
Actually, I do. I had 7 muskrats and a raccoon, and the raccoon I got $20 for. It was right at the end of the fur boom, I mean, it was right at the beginning of the 80s, and I remember my check was $34.50 for everything,
Wow.
And I looked at, I'm like, I wish I still had a copy of that check, but I was just so amazed that I got paid for, how many people get to go have fun in the woods and get paid for it, what I mean? So yeah, it was a whole new love.
Yeah, it's one of those things where with this platform, I'm getting to talk to more trappers I look up to. And, from your era, before your era, the current era, that kind of entrepreneurial spark is interesting to me because even today, I've talked to kids who are in high school who are still running lines, and that's how they're buying their first car or, having a little bit of play money, which I never had in high school, except of like being a lifeguard. I never looked outside of the normal bounds, and there's still a way to make money. And it's surprising to me how entrepreneurial trapping really is and how it attracts people of that mindset.
Yeah, we have to, I mean, if you're just going to rely on selling the fur, you how could I put it? You're not gonna profit. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I see that online. A lot of people are like, "Oh, there's no money in trapping. There's no money in trapping." Well, there actually is. You know what I mean? I've turned it into a career. You know what I mean? I mean, even considering what I do right now with the show and everything. But I mean, I started out, of course, as a fur trapper, and then it turned into owning a wildlife control business and and stuff like that, and doing contract work and then doing bounty work and all kinds of stuff. There's so many different ways you can make money. You're not going to get rich, but I run my trap line just like any other business.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got your ledger, your profit, your loss, and everything you got to invest in it.
sure.
But from that kid, you sold your first coon and a few muskrats. Kind of maybe take us just on that arc, because I mean, people know you. A lot of people listening will know you again from the show. But as far as I understand, like you were in Wisconsin for a while, then you went to Tennessee, where we were kind of running in the same area, and now you're in Montana. What did that arc as a trapper look like for you over the last 25, 30 years?
Oh man, the arc you're asking?
Yeah, like you kind of mentioned a few different
The
things, like
learning curve? You talk
yeah,
about
like
like,
different
like
jobs that you held along the way, and
oh
like
yeah,
what took you to Tennessee, and then ultimately Montana, where you're at now.
sure, yeah. In '08, well, first when I moved to Tennessee in '94, I haven't even caught a coyote yet. What I mean? So
Okay.
those were all foreign to me. What I mean? So when I got to Tennessee, there wasn't that much water trapping like the marshes of Wisconsin. Big cattail marshes and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot of mink trapping and whatnot. So sure, there's a lot of beaver and stuff like that in Tennessee, but I had to learn how to go ahead and trap coyotes, because if I was going to get on any ranches or any farms to trap, I had to learn how to trap coyotes. So I went and learned how to trap coyotes. So that started broadening my horizons a little bit. I mean, in 2008, well, that was caught my first right around
Mhm.
1998 or so, I'm guessing. And so anyways, but it wasn't something that I was very confident in. I was catching a handful, up to 15, 20 a year or something like that. 2008, when the economy crashed, I started a business called Predators and Prairie Wildlife Control. I lost everything. I lost my truck. I lost my house. I lost everything. I was in construction. In the wintertime, I would take off and I would fur trap, and do bounty work and stuff like that. Well, Mike McMillan, my fur buyer out of Knoxville there, he did wildlife control, and he came out and bought all my fur, and I was making peanuts, because
Mhm.
there's no value in anything at that time. And he's like, he goes, I brought you something. I said, what's that? And he slams down all the paperwork on the table. He goes, I know how you feel about killing animals. He says, well, the fur ain't prime, but you need to do wildlife control. And I was living right on the edge of the Smoky Mountains and all of that, Sevierville and in
Mhm.
that area. And he goes, but you'd be good at it because you're close enough to the Smoky Mountain, Smoky Mountain area, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, and all that, where you can go ahead and really thrive as a business. So I looked at the papers for a while, then I filled them out, and then I sent them into the state, and I got permitted, and everything. And I remember, in fact, I just told the story this morning.
Huh.
I started out with a rusted old pickup truck, you know what I mean? Because that's all I had. And I think it was in the first 6 months or so, I made about 17,000.
Oh,
And then
wow.
I started getting my advertising right and everything. And that was a lot of money for me back then because I was broke as a joke. And so then it was from that point, let's say it was from October, the next year I made 85,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and within 5 years, I made a $500,000. You know what I mean? And then I sold the business for 85,000. You know, so there's ways to make money in trapping. You know what I mean? And then I went through a really bad divorce and bad period of my life and everything, and I almost quit trapping.
And you talked a little bit about that offline with me, and that was what year was that where you almost stepped away?
2014, 2015.
So this is
Yeah.
a few years, or this was right as you were selling the business you had in Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, going through a really bad divorce and another thing too, I was sick and tired of catching coyotes that had absolutely no value.
Yeah.
Let me back up. 2010, I went to Trappers College, and
And that's
that
with the is that with NTA or NFA? That
FTA, Fur Takers of America.
okay, FTA.
And, yep, and so I went to Trappers College, and that really changed my game.
Can I
Uh,
ask you a quick question real quick as it relates to that? Because a lot of people listening to this are new trappers or trappers who are trying to find, like you just mentioned, a way to make a living at it.
I,
Um, with FTA and in the fur college, you know, can you tell a little bit about what that actually is, and then maybe a little bit about your experience there and why that kind of changed things for you?
Yeah. So the Fur Takers of America, they hold what's called the Trappers College. It's in September. I think it's like the second week of September. Happens right during the elk rut. So, anyways, but it's worth every penny. I don't even know what it costs anymore. But when I went there, I think it was 1,200 or something like that.
Mhm.
It's a full blown wildlife control course.
Mm.
So when you go to the Trappers College, you get interviewed as far as your level of trapping experience. When I went there, Gary Jepson out of North Dakota and Tim Julian, they were doing the interviewing. And I remember saying, at the time, I'm like, I caught 800 beaver in Southern Illinois just alone. I said, I want to walk away from a coyote trap confident, laying in bed, knowing that if a coyote comes up, I'm going to catch that coyote.
Mhm.
And they looked at each other and said, okay, you're in our class. And so that would be, I think, class number 5. So that was the professional class. I mean, there's only a handful full of people in that class, all the way down to class 1, which would be people that have never maybe even touched a trap before.
Mhm.
So you're grouped as far as your abilities, I mean, so you're not being left behind. The course goes, it's in-field instruction, so you're actually setting traps on a refuge in Indiana. It's an awesome course. You're working right with instructors. You're catching, you're bringing it back. The last day, you're skinning, you're fleshing, you're putting up. And then there's nighttime classes, which would be like your ADC classes. There's good wolf talks. There's hog trapping. I mean,
Hmm.
you name it. A lot of biology talk and on dispersal with coyotes and fox and all kinds of stuff. And it's mind blowing the amount of information that comes out of there and the literature that you're getting and the contacts you get. It's worth every damn penny. So
Cool. Well, before we move on how that affected you and your trajectory, just for folks listening, I'll make sure that we have a link to the FTA Trappers College in the show
yeah,
notes. If you are interested yourself, go in, click it, and check it out.
yeah. And then to beat it all, I was asked to be an instructor this past year. Is my first year as an instructor there. So it felt really, really good to go back to the college, you know what I'm saying, after 13 years, still seeing some of those instructors there and actually becoming an instructor, you know what I mean? So I'm just honored for that. You know, it's like,
So not only do you get all that instruction, but if folks want to come and actually learn from you too, will you be there this next year or the following years as well, as far as you know?
as far as I know I am, you know what I mean? They haven't said no. You know what I mean? They're pretty excited that I was there. I'm going to be at the FTA convention. I'll be their guest there this coming summer in Virginia. So yeah, there's that too. So
Perfect. So you come out of that having already had probably what 13, 14 years of experience as a professional trapper, and then you still got so much out of the FTA,
oh
college. And
yeah.
then what happened?
Yeah, well, I went from 15, 20 coyotes a year guy to 100 coyotes a year guy. You know what I mean? And just really excelled on doing coyotes. Right after that, I had my best season ever on coyotes. I remember I trapped for 7 days in Southern Illinois. I ran 75 traps and for 7 checks, and I caught 37 coyotes. You
Oh,
know what I
wow.
mean? It was like, holy crap, you know what I mean? And I just took methods that I used and that. So it was well worth it. Well worth going to Trappers College.
So I got to ask then too, as much as you are or care to divulge, if you had to give one piece of advice or maybe pick out one thing that really changed your game from going to like a 17 a year coyote guy to, 100,
Yeah.
what would be one thing we'll just stick with coyotes for now, coyote trappers that they can maybe implement that might up their game and their fur take?
Understanding blockages.
Okay.
You got to find the blockage before you can find the funnel.
Okay. You
Yeah.
hear that, everybody?
That
Cool.
that was the one thing I learned right there was even the little areas, country areas that I was trapping in Illinois, the high school was a blockage. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because any coyotes coming east and west, we're going to have to go around that high school. You know what I mean? So in order to find the funnel, you had to find the blockage. You know?
Gotcha. So it changes your lens as you're driving around town or the woods and everything else.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. So you get done with the FTA college, and is that pre or post divorce?
That's pre. Yep.
Okay.
Pre.
So then you go through your divorce and you come to a point where you almost step away from trapping.
Yeah.
What kept you from fully walking away and, kind of kept your interest enough to, obviously now where you've blossomed into, a trapping celebrity of sorts?
Kept me from walking away was I guess just the love of it, you know what I'm saying? I was of course I was an angry person back then because of what I was going through and everything, real negative and whatnot. But um and I noticed myself always going to other states trapping and I was going north looking for better fur. The reason I was about to stop trapping altogether was I was tired of raccoons being, catch raccoons like, oh yeah, I'm gonna skin you for $1.
Mhm.
Coyote, oh crap, this one here, just I might as well not even touch it with a knife and just go pitch it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I wasn't really liking that. I wasn't doing wildlife control anymore. I was getting kind of burnt out too because doing wildlife control, it was 365 days, a year trapping nonstop, and just kind of got a little burnt out on it. And then I knew when I sold out and everything, I knew I was going to be heading more to a northern state. I was looking at Missouri. I was looking at possibly Minnesota, not going back to Wisconsin because of, the liberalism and the amount of wolves and,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't be able to coyote trap and I'd be catching wolves. And it's just too, yeah, I don't want to wait 5 years to go catch a bobcat type of stuff. I don't know why you would want to live in a state like that. I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion.
I'm with
So I
you.
knew I had to go to somewhere where it's a little bit more quota driven trapping instead of permit driven trapping. You know what I mean? I think in Wisconsin, it's like 5-6 years before you can even get a bobcat permit. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So like, yeah, no, it's ridiculous. Missouri is a great state. I've trapped in Missouri, and that's a great state to trap. Unlimited bobcats, I think, and otters and whatnot. You're able to go ahead and actually manage your property that way. So then I started. My sister and the rest of my family lived out here in Western Montana, and so I finally came out and visited here. And my son and I were up towards Eureka, up in there by the border, and we're fishing, in a trout stream, and I look at him, I'm like, we live in America, man. We can live wherever we want to live. You know what I mean? So we don't have to live back east in East Tennessee where there's people all over the place and it's hot and icky and sticky. And I mean, look at this, and I said, let's just move here, and so it took a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. So it took a little bit, but we got out here. So
Yeah, you and I have kind of similar stories. I ended up in Idaho after a divorce myself, and similar mental shift of, we do live in a great place, and if we can live anywhere, and I have family back east, mostly South Carolina, Georgia, but you can stake your own claim and pick where you want to live out the rest of your life, and it is your life. And
correct.
That resonates with me. So before we kind of, move to a little bit about the show, things like that, one of the things I like to ask guests, especially folks like yourself who've been trapping for the majority of your life, can you think of the biggest mistake you've ever made on your trap line that's cost you fur?
Yeah, pull wolf traps before the season's done. Don't ever pull a wolf trap until the season is done. Oh yeah.
And can you elaborate on that? Did you have just prints right over where you had your trap set before? Or?
Oh yeah, this has happened actually multiple times. You know what I mean? And wolf trapping, for the one, is such a mind game. And you don't like right now. Okay, I was on my line yesterday, left on my snowmobile here in the mud. Finally got up on the farthest end of my line in the snow, and I had my gal with me, and she's on the back. And I said, if the wolves came through right now, what I'm saying, right through right here, right now, I said, it wouldn't even be worth me setting up, because by the time they come back around, what I mean? And it's just such a mind game with trapping wolves, because the season is about out. It's about finished up. In fact, they're not to go off base or anything or offline, but they're meeting right now. The commission is whether to extend the wolf season or keep the wolf season open, because we're getting close to quota. Anyways, so with wolf trapping, you get to the point where the wolves might not come back through for 30 days, and you looking at this empty trap, and you're losing every time you look at it, or I used to look at it, I'm losing confidence in it. And finally you're just like, okay, well, I'm down, I got no more traps left. This spot over here is better. So I'm going to pull this trap up and I'm going to move it over here, because I'm thinking that this is better, or the wolves just came through because I'm out of traps. And then you come by 2 days later, and that wolf has come in, stepped there, and pissed on your piss post.
Guilty as charged on that one.
What's that?
I said I'm guilty as charged on that one. That happened to me many times. Yeah.
So now I have a rule on my trap line is, you never pull a trap until the last day. You only add traps. Last year I went to the Idaho auction. I think it was last year. Yeah. Yeah. I went down to the fur auction. My son's going to run my trap line for me. It was a January auction, and there was 2 traps where I didn't show them, and they were on dregs, and I needed to show him that these sets, what I mean? And so he was at work. There's no way I was leaving. And I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and pull them, and then I'll put them back out. I'm only gone for 4 days. I'll put them back out when I get there. Well, in that little bit of time when I was gone, 2 wolves came in. I would have had a double. I mean, there's wolf tracks all over it, and they pissed all over everything. And I mean, that's just a couple instances, or whatever, I mean, and it's for 4 or 5 years, I pulled them and moved them and missed and missed and missed and missed. So yeah, just wait them out. Just wait them out. You
Yeah,
know.
that's good advice. Now, what about the first shed? Can you think of anything that egregiously you've done in the first shed that led to, you know, holes or, you know, otherwise problems with getting fur sold?
This year, I finally got a litter of fox. You know, I raised a few ranch fox, and I'm not breeding this year because I got so many shows and stuff like that to go to. I won't be able to care for all the puppies and everything and fox pups. So I'm not even breeding this year. Um, but which sucks. So, anyways, I've never really skinned ranch fox before, you know, and so I didn't know they were that paper thin.
And that's
And
different. So, and for me, I have known nothing of the difference. Like I trap, like I've got a little cross fox up here and red fox in the woods,
right.
but they're already thin critters.
Oh,
So,
these are even more thin.
oh wow,
You would be absolute. I didn't know they were that thin and that paper thin. Wow, like almost wet paper. You know what I
oh
mean?
wow.
And I, you know how you rip a fox when you pull them down and they'll
Mhm.
rip from the back around to the front. Oh
Yep.
yeah, almost right in half on one of them. And I'm like, you know, oh my God, you know. So and then I slowed down to the next one and I I pelted 4 and because I've been seeing them for trim with mittens
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And then I ripped 2 more open, fleshing them, and then just back knifing them just slowly, and it just popped right open. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me, you know. So, anyways,
So
those
it's
were
a lifelong thing.
what's that?
Said it's a lifelong learning lesson
Oh
then,
yeah,
you know, you're
oh,
always learning something new.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So with the show, Mountain Men, you know, and if folks haven't seen it, I definitely suggest. I've been getting caught up the past, you know, month or two that you and I have been chatting and, you know, watching some of the episodes. So go watch it on Amazon Prime or wherever you know, consume your television.
Mhm.
That's a pretty cool gig. And, you know, objectively me watching it, I think you're a great personality for it, but as a trapper, like how does that come about? How did that I don't know if it fell in your lap or if you sought it out, but maybe you kind of talk us about how you got on the show.
Well, first of all, before we moved out to Montana, my son and I, you know, we would be back in East Tennessee and we would watch it, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And we'd watch the TV and be like, yeah, one day we're going to be living out there. You know what I mean? That'd be cool. So I watched it not only for, some of the good content and all of that, but, like Tom and all of that, but, I watched it just to see what the wilderness was like out here and whatnot. So anyway, because I was really foreign to being out west here. Anyway, so I move out here and all that, and I was on my snowmobile up on the mountain. I pinged a signal, and I was filming for my YouTube and all of that. I pulled my phone out to film. I look, I'm like, oh, I got a phone call, and caller ID came up, and it said Tom Orr. I'm like, oh
Huh.
wow, no kidding, And so I get home and I call him up, and he says, yeah. I said, well, first of all, how'd you get my number, And he goes, well, I got it from the trapping organization, the Montana
Mm.
Fur Harvesters. I'm like, oh, cool. And I said, how can I help you? And he's like, well, he goes, I need some wolf snares. He goes, and I heard you had some wolf snares. I said, yeah, I got some pretty good wolf snares, and we had a snaring season start. And so I started on like, well, hey, Tom, I said, I know you might not be able to. I said, but I would love to have you on my YouTube
Hmm.
you know, and maybe talk to your producer or whatever, see if it would be fine, you know what I mean? And he's like, all right, he goes, let me find out. So he calls me the next day. He's like, no, they said no. I'm like, all right, whatever, okay. And I said, well, anyways, I said, I want to meet you. I said, I'm just dying to meet you. I don't get starstruck. I've met celebrities before and stuff like that. And I just don't, in fact, I don't, people ask me for my autograph and I don't understand it. I don't get it. You know what I mean? I don't get starstruck. I get starstruck over people like Gary Jepson,
Yep.
what I mean, that are living the life and all that. And I'm not saying Tom isn't, but he is. But anyways, those are kind of like my heroes, not celebrities. So we get up there to we met at Libby. I said, "Hey, I'm going to donate these. Let me take you to lunch." I said, "I
Mhm.
want to meet you." And so we met in Libby at Antler's restaurant. And I brought him stabilizers and snare supports, and all kinds of stuff. And we sat down for lunch, and the lunch was like 2.5 hour lunch. You know what I mean? And we just enjoyed each other's company. You know what I mean? And he's a buck skinner, of course, and bronc rider, and and he's trapped, and so we had a lot in common, a lot to talk about. And so, anyways, I don't want to say too much about Tom's personal life or anything, but um, so, anyways, we start talking, and he says, "Hey," he says, "Are you interested in being on the show?" You know what I mean? And well, what I noticed was I was asking him questions about him, but he's really a humble guy. You know what I mean? And he's
Mhm.
wanting to know more about me in this meeting. And he's wanting to know about, show me some more videos, your YouTube videos, and show me some more, those pictures, and from back east trapping and everything. And he was like really impressed. He's like, "You're like a long liner." And I'm like, "I guess, yeah, that's what I've done for many years. I long line.
Mhm.
I don't go at it just a few traps. I go at it. And so he looks at me, he goes, "I've been contemplating possibly retiring one day, and he goes, "Marty retired." He goes, and he goes, "I can't leave him without a trapper." He goes,
Mm.
"Would you be interested, being on the show?" You know what I mean? And I'm like, "If you think I could do it," you know what I mean? And I mean, yeah, heck yeah, let's try it out. And so anyways, I got back home, and he went and what's that? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. No,
So
audio switched on me for a second, so
okay.
apologize.
I got back home, and like the next day I got a phone call from the producer, out of Missoula. And he liked what he was hearing. He's like, "Well, what are you doing now?" And I'm like, "Well," I said, I'm a little bit left, 2 weeks left of wolf trapping. And this was in March. And so then he says, "Want to do a Zoom?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do a Zoom. Sure. What the heck?" And so now it's starting to progress. And so we did a Zoom, had to go down to the bar and get signal and all of that and figure all that stuff out. And so then he says, "Well, hey," he says, "my main producer is the main lady at the production company, says I need to get." He goes, "If you're interested," he goes, "we need to get our asses up there right now while you're still in trapping season, and we want to film you completely in your element while you're trapping."
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
"Oh, cool." He goes, "Are you interested?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So sign all the releases and everything, and boom, before you know it, I got cameraman, A B cam, assistant cam, producer, drones are going, the whole shit. And I'm like, whoa. And it was funny because it was muddy. It was like crappy, like right now. And I told him, I said, "Hey," I said, "the backdrop is bad." I said, "It's muddy, it's crappy." Well, that night it snowed 8 inches.
Oh, wow.
So it made everything absolutely epic and beautiful. So we shot, what's called a sizzle reel or audition clip, and 2.5, 3 days of filming. You know what I mean? And then I find out the amount of money they really put into all this. It's just astronomical. They spend that much money on me. But and then it didn't come to be. Um, I guess right away.
So
There,
real quick, before we go there, I'm just curious. So from the time that Tom called you on the mountaintop to the time you were sitting with him, bringing him snares, to the
yeah,
time that you had a film crew out there with you trying to build a sizzle reel to kind of almost sell you for the show,
right.
how long was that time period? It
three
sounds like
months.
it was almost, how long?
3 months.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
fast.
it came really quick. Yeah, and then it got really quiet, and then it went
Uh-huh.
like really, really. He goes, "All right, we'll talk to you in July." I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh, okay, see you later." You know what I mean? And well, then I got a call a couple of weeks later, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go ahead and add on, some episodes. Are you interested in coming on this year?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." Heck, I'm still high from the last time you guys were here. And
Mhm.
so, anyways, then they ended up not deciding not to do that, the History Channel, and then they ended up starting me, on season 12. So, and then I ended up getting they switched it up last year, as you might know, they have Mountain Men Alaska, And so after regular Mountain Men was done, which was, I think, 10 episodes, I think I had 9 of them total. Yeah, I had 9 episodes out of 10 for a
Mhm.
first-time talent, you know what I'm saying? And first-time character, that's a lot. I mean, usually it's 4 to 6 on your first year, and they're pumping me at 9. You know what I mean? So, that was really, really cool. So, this year I got 11 out of 12. You know
That's
what I mean?
awesome.
So, it's a lot of episodes, so, yeah, it's pretty cool.
And how much well, let me ask you this, because you still do your YouTube, which has been very successful, which, for people who aren't watching, you've got your shirt on, Montana Wolf Trapper. You can check that out too. Probably buy some swag there too.
Yeah.
Um, is you're balancing that, the show, and actually being a successful long line trapper. Can you maybe break down the ratio of what your trapping season looks like now between YouTube filming
Yeah.
for mountain men, and just being out there by yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, there's a priority. You always got to look at priorities. Number one is, the Mountain Men show. I have a contract to fill, and it also it pays well. So that's my priority. In the beginning of a season, I know there's a lot of guys that may have been contacted by different shows, stuff like that, and they're afraid to take that because they think the camera is all the way always following them around, and they don't get to go trap and whatnot.
Mhm.
Well, the way it works with me is, we talk about dates, filming dates, and what I'm doing. They work around my schedule, and then we talk about storylines and stuff like that. They don't just come out and follow you around, what I mean, with the camera. There's storylines and all of that stuff, and we come up. That's how we all collaborate and come up with really good content. It's a lot of fun, and they actually include me in on it, which is they better, So, but anyways, so it's not just following you around with a camera the whole time traffic season goes through. And second is my trapping, and then third is my YouTube. So if I'm starting to get burnt out, like right now, I'm getting a little bit burnt out. I just got off of a week of filming and whatnot, and so my YouTube. I need a break from YouTube a little bit, so I'll
Mhm.
stop taking a break from it. So yeah, I mean, if someone is thinking about doing it, what I'm saying, get the details before you say no and get scared, what I mean, because it is really cool, what I mean, on how all comes together and it all works. It's a lot of fun. It's the best damn job I've ever had in my life, so it's a lot of fun.
That's amazing. And congrats. I mean, I've enjoyed watching it. And on top of that, I have to imagine the reach that a show like that has to just the broad public, where you have an opportunity. A lot of people call themselves conservationists. They might join their trappers association, but you know the ability to just show what we as trappers are doing to such a big audience is, it's got to be pretty fulfilling, I would imagine, and it's a lot of responsibility for you as well too.
Oh yeah, it actually kind of keeps me awake up at night if I know I'm going to be shooting a controversial episode like the wolf episode last year. What I mean, I had my talking points, and what I know to be is true. What I mean, and what I find awesome is at first they didn't want me to do a wolf episode because it was so controversial. What I
Mhm.
mean, and then they allowed me to, because we did it under, what's as far as livestock protection and all that. Um, and I had all my talking points. I talked to people like Justin Webb and different people about, hey, I want to make this a home run for, conservation, wolf trapping, and predator management. And I ran over some of my talking points with them, and they used them all in the show, and it was just, so yeah, I get that 1.2 million audience, to tell truth to, what I mean? So, um, there's some things that they don't want to show. And so like if I'm doing, let's say, a coyote episode, what I mean? I got to have a bunch of coyote snares out because they're not going to show one in a wolf trap. I mean, they're not going to show a coyote in a foot trap, and quite frankly, people don't need to see that. That's not what it's about. It's about the story. It's about, predator management or fur bear management, stuff like that. we're all trappers. We see animals in traps. We don't need to be, in my opinion, not everybody needs to see that. So
Yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, there's all the different conversations, not just in trapping, but in hunting around the whole idea of what do we need to be putting out there? Social media is so ubiquitous and broad, like, maybe not put the fox or the cute coyote in a foothold trap, but, it's up to everybody to make their own decision. But I
right.
agree with you that we can do it in a tactful way.
Mhm.
That helps promote the art of trapping. So
Right.
congratulations again on that. That's amazing. Now I did have a mountain men specific question. You already touched on this, but
Mhm.
I'm going to read it so I don't screw it up. But
Right.
this is about Tom. He
Okay.
just seems like the universal granddad that everybody wishes that they had, who's just chock full of amazing advice.
Yeah.
There's a tiny part of me that wishes that he weren't authentic, but it sounds like he absolutely is.
Yeah.
And considering that, do you have like one snippet of advice that could be about trapping, life, or anything that you've picked up from Tom that you'd want to share with folks?
Oh man. Be kind. You know what I'm saying? He's just when I first met him, he was just absolutely kind, and he's absolutely grateful for his life. That's another one.
Mhm.
He's got so much gratitude, you know what I mean? I don't want to tell his story for him or nothing like that, but he basically came from nothing, and God, I love he's just got an amazing story. So then I went out there to visit Nancy and Tom for the first time at their house, and sat down at the kitchen table with them. And I'm like, oh crap, it's been 4 hours. How often can you sit at someone's kitchen table and just talk about life and everything for 4 hours and you don't want it to end? You know what I mean? They're kind, grateful people, what I mean, and that's it, you know.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that seems to be on the downward trend in the world right now. And, you know, finding those people and gleaning what you can is so important. So I'm very proud for you to be able to call him a friend and,
Oh yeah.
by proxy, hopefully absorb some of that through you
Yeah.
as you kind of take the helm at that point of, being a real trapping icon. So that's amazing. Now, other questions I like to ask, again, this is kind of a podcast focused to not just new trappers, it's
Mhm.
across the board, but you've trapped all manner of critter. And I have a question because I know that at one point in your career, you've trapped bats. And I do not think that many folks listening to this podcast have ever had that experience. So, how in the hell did you end up trapping bats? What is that like? And, any cool stories from having to do that?
I got a lot of funny stories, but no, I didn't trap bats. We excluded them. And
Okay.
so, yeah, you don't want to trap them. You want to exclude them and let them make the decision on where they want to live next or whatever. So you got to go ahead, of course, seal the house up or the cabin up, and all that. And you find their entry point where they're coming in and out at, and you leave that spot open. Let's say it's up in a gable peak, and they're coming in right at the peak up here. So let's say you there's a crack all the way up. You want to caulk all of that or fill all of that, and you get to the top. You leave that open, and you take like a caulk tube or they make pre-made excluder tubes or whatever, and you put that tube up there, and so the bat comes out, what I mean, and crawls out, what I mean, flies around, does his thing. He comes home, and when a bat comes home, they cling to the side of the house or the cabin, and then they walk in the hole, right?
Mhm.
Well, with that tube coming out, they're able to get out, but they can't get back in. So it's not trapping them; you're just excluding them from the property. But yeah, I had a guy that worked for me, Elias Crawford. Okay, he AKA Dangle. Okay, that's his nickname, Dangle. So he we did a lot of cabins up in the Smoky Mountains where on the backside of the cabin it might be 3 stories up, and then it comes off of this mountain face, and that's 50 feet down beyond that. And so you can't get back there with a boom truck or a lift or anything. And so I hired Elias. He had a wildlife degree out of Knoxville, and he was on the rappel team. So we got talking. He's like, I got all my rappel equipment. He goes, why don't we just rappel off of these houses? You know what I mean? Cabins. And then, we can figure out the rope and then you can, come along me over. Then I can go up up the gable and do the caulking and the ceiling and all that. And, I said, yeah, we can. I said, heck, I'll go ahead and pay you an extra $100 a day, for doing that and, charge, the homeowner instead of the rental on the boom truck that you can't even get around there in the first place and all that. So it was a win-win. So anyways, so he hated bats. He's an old farm boy too. So he hated bats. And so he's caulking. No, he was foaming the crack going all the way up on this little old rickety log cabin. And these bats, that smell of that foam, that fresh foam is irritating them and all that. So he's getting to the top and all these bats, and they're big browns. They're all at the peak up there, right? And there you can hear them chattering and everything. And the bat shit's falling out and everything. And he's dangling there. And he's like, God, I hate bats. And also it was noon. They all start coming out and they're flying over the top of him. So I think there's a video. One of my first videos on YouTube in 2015-ish is him dangling there. And I'm joking around because I'm like, yeah, this rope goes down here. It's tied off to a wheelbarrow. And this one's tied off to a lawn chair. But anyways, so, and it's not in the video, but these bats, and he's like this, and he's spinning around like 50 feet in the air, and these bats, and he's just swatting bats. He's like, I told you I hate bats. It was great. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was when we were talking about that, or you mentioned the bats earlier, I was curious if you were trapping them because I was like, oh man, are you the actual reason for COVID that you were trapping bats and selling soup? But I'm glad to know that's not the case. And poor Dangle was getting attacked by bats on your watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, for new trappers or people who are just getting into the art, with a lifetime of experience and getting exposed to so many great individuals like you have, do you have a piece of advice that you would want to give to new trappers?
There's
a lot of avenues to take it, right?
All kinds of stuff. Social media. Okay, let's just touch on that. Keep it off social media as much as you can. You know what I'm saying? Well, no, let me put it this way. I guess I could talk about through experience. You know what I mean? So I remember 2 years ago when I was doing YouTubes and all that, and I was doing a lot on wolf trapping. And with wolf trapping, it's not a lot of success. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of empty traps. And so I was trying to grow the channel. And so I'm posting videos of what I'm doing, and I'm not showing catches. You know what I mean? And so it was really wearing on me as far as a trapper goes, that I was a failure and it's so tough and all that. Be careful what you're putting on social media, and not only just for the animal activists, to use against us or whatever. One thing you don't want to put on there is any kind of incidental catches and stuff like that. It happens. It happens. Don't put it on there. Don't even talk about it. Let me think with social media, guys. Okay. So, I guess where I'm going with this, I don't expect to catch big numbers on mink here. You know why? Because I don't have big numbers of mink living here. Okay. Now, if I'm on social media, let's say Facebook, and I'm seeing Trapper X over there in southern Minnesota, and he's picking up 10 mink a day with the same amount of traps that I'm using, and I'm picking up a mink every 3 days. It's not basically what I'm doing wrong. It's just I don't have the population of mink. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look at stuff like that with social media. So what I'm saying is your confidence level. Don't let social media is a confidence destroyer. You know what I'm saying? It really is. Look at your own game. I have some wolf trappers that just despise me, and I think they would catch more wolves if they would do what I do is, and I put blinders on. I don't care what the trapper over there is doing. I'm grateful that he caught a wolf, because, it's good management and I'm excited for him. I really don't care how he caught it or whatever, or when he's checking. I don't care what they're doing because I got blinders on. Pay attention to your own trap line. Um, ask for advice. Bible says that, a wise man seeks counsel. Always ask for advice, and whatever you're doing, whether it's trapping or just life related, and work your ass off. Just work your ass off. You know.
That's all sage advice. So I mean, to sum it up, right, it's be cautious of what you share, and
Hmm.
that can you can decide that yourself. Run your own race,
Right.
ignore the comments, and then seek out mentorship. And I'm a testament to that because I have no business being in trapping, but I've reached out and learned from so many great people, you included, who are always willing to talk with me and work hard. Seems
Yeah.
like a pretty good recipe for success to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. That's how you know, I don't think I think I'll go to my grave, having mentors in my life. You know what I'm saying? I'll never be too old for a mentor, I mean, to have a mentor in my life, you know. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, one of the things that I like to do to kind of round out the show as we're kind of coming up on time, I have two kind of questions that I always like to sneak in. So the first one is going to be, as a guy who spends a lot of time out in the woods and throughout his life, what is the weirdest thing you've ever encountered or experienced in the woods?
Oh. Coming here from back east, there's a lot of things that happen out here that you'll never see back east. I've
Hmm.
seen a lot of things since I moved here, that I would never have seen, back east. And so I'm trapping a ranch, okay, and there's a dead cow out there, and it's probably half eaten. You know what I mean? It's got its whole hide. It's got some of the meat. You know what I mean? And but it's been there for a month or so, and the buzzards had its way with it. Great coyote spot for coyotes. So I set up around it, and I come back first check, and no coyote. Come back the next check, and it just didn't seem right. It was like it wasn't in the right spot. You know what I mean? And it's like it was moved or something like that. So then I come back again for 48 hours later. I check every 2 days for my coyotes, and now it's moved like 100 yards. All right. I'm like, what in the heck? And so then, I'm like, should I move my traps? Because I want to be a little bit closer to it. You know what I mean? And so then I come back a couple days later. Now it's another 100 yards. Well, it ended up being a damn grizzly bear. You know what I mean? And he's trying to drag it into the woods because it was out in the middle of a meadow. You know what I mean? So he was coming at night and pulling it up. So that moving here, that was one of the probably the surreal things I've seen, just the sheer power of it, you know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, there's so many more after 46 years of doing it. I mean, I remember pulling up on a culvert and looking on the ice when I was young, and there's otter tracks coming in. I look at my nephew because I look over the other side and there's no otter tracks coming out. I'm like, oh, hey, there's otters in that culvert. So I grabbed the 330 really quick, you know what I mean? And as I'm going down there to go ahead and get get the otter or the trap in the culvert, you can hear them barking and all that.
Mhm.
And so they're coming out like darts, you know what I mean, out of that culvert. There's one left. And I remember I had the counter bird down, and I said, "Hit the culvert." He smacks the culvert, and that otter came out and flipped that 330 up, and it almost fired on me. And I got to thinking, now that I know, you know what I mean, because I've tail caught otters in the past and everything. That otter would have been caught in the tail, and I would have had a mess on my hands. You know what I mean? So there's so many different little stories, like that.
Yeah, I have a
But
new respect. I had a drowning wire fail on me on an otter this year, and I had my first wrestling match with an
oh,
otter in like a foot and a half of water, and I have a whole new respect for
wow.
what you're talking about. And it was a interesting little test of wills and courage
Yeah.
on my part.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. A
All
lot of
right,
fun.
last question I've got for you, Paul, and then I'll let you get back to your day, your line filming and everything. But I love to end on hypotheticals.
Okay.
So, would you rather be unable to speak, but able to target any animal you wanted at any time of year? Or would you rather keep your voice, but only be able to target one species of your choice during its current season dates? And why?
Oh, yeah, that's an easy one. Keep my voice.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it'd be wolves, you know what I mean? And just because of the importance of management of them, you know what I mean? Keep my voice so I could, teach, so I could
Mhm.
pass on the tradition and the heritage and the importance of fur bear management and, and, one thing I was talking about in the muskrat episode was not over trapping, over harvesting so you can have something to harvest next year, and so I'd be able to teach that, to new trappers coming in and such. So, oh yeah, definitely keep my voice. Yeah, I don't want to be silenced. No, 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 no. I think the other way, and I don't mean to down anybody for chose the other way, but I think the other way would be selfish.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
would be it'd be a selfish choice.
Yeah. You get a lot of fur, but might not last long. So that's
Right.
awesome. Beautiful choice. Now, as we kind of wrap up, where can people find you? I mean, you're kind of all over the place. You've got the show, you've got the YouTube. Can you list out everywhere that people can follow you, interact with you, and see what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, under my name, Paul Anczak. And there's two Paul Anczaks on Facebook. One was from 2 years ago. I had COVID and long story and went into my COVID coma, I call it. And so, anyways, I wasn't able to get back on that channel because long story. So I stayed off Facebook for 2 years
Oh,
and
wow.
really cleared my mind. I mean, Facebook can be a kind of a mind destroyer too. So it was really refreshing to be off Facebook for a couple of years. But you can find me on Facebook, and I got that linked with Instagram. But I really don't spend a lot of time on Instagram um, at all. I might go over there once every couple days and go, "Oh, that's right, I have it." You know what I mean, type of thing. Uh, YouTube, of course, Montana Wolf Trapper. You can get me on there. I don't have a set schedule as far as when I do videos and all that, like some guys do. Um, it's just because it's kind of just really random for me. I don't want to put up just content just to be putting up content. I want to put up good stuff. And so if I run into a creative block or something like that, I just don't film. Wanted to film one yesterday, and I'm like, oh, I should be filming one. I should be film. I started it, and then riding my snowmobile, and I'm just like, I really just don't feel like doing it. So I'm not going to go ahead and put junk out there. I try not to, anyways. So those are really the two different places. You know, we just did a giveaway. We reached, I say we because I can't do it without, I mean, all the subscribers and everything. But we reached 20,000, yeah, yeah, it was huge. That was pretty awesome. And it takes a long time to hit that. If you are you doing a YouTube?
We're going to be starting one for the Okayest Trapper to put up some
Yeah,
of these videos. So we'll just starting our journey here soon.
patient.
Mhm.
It just takes a long time, you know what I mean? And there's different tricks. Do some shorts, you know what I mean? Do a bunch of shorts, one or two a day, you know what I mean? Starting out like that. Shorts gets you gets you subscribers. They make you no money, but they'll get you subscribers. So there's all kinds of little tricks, you know what I mean? I can
Awesome.
help you out with them if you want me to. So
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely take the coaching around anything social media because it's still a new beast for me.
right.
Um, and then the Mountain Men show, obviously, people can find it
Yeah.
wherever they go. You're filming for next season now, but what are the two seasons that you've been on to date?
Season 12, and now we're filming for season 13. So
Perfect.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, everybody go check it out.
Oh, you guys are gonna love it. Yeah, there's been some character changes, and whatnot, but they're all good. You're gonna, man, I can't wait to when the season comes out. It's gonna be awesome.
Well, I
Yeah,
know I can't wait. I know other people can't wait, but folks, thanks again for joining us and for Paul coming on the show, talking everything trapping. It's much appreciated. You know, I know I speak for the group and myself. Thank you for all the things you're doing to keep promoting um, the art And we need more folks like you. We need vocal, articulate people that are out there fighting for it. So thank you very much. And for everybody else, we'll catch you next time on another episode of the Okayest Trapper podcast.
Thank you, sir. Good time.